It's the month of May, and Mari rushes through the streets to catch up with her class. She bumps into strangers but keeps going, determined not to be late. Along the way, she notices a human-like figure with the face and body of a dog. They are called beast folk. Lately, she has been seeing more of them, but with time running out, she focuses on getting to school first. At Yatsunoa High School, the instructor is already making announcements. He informs the class about the arrival of special status students, referring to the beast folk. He briefly explains their origin, stating that they are actually products of a failed experiment from years ago, making them a rare species. There are only about 3,000 of them in existence, all living in one area of Saitama Prefecture. Despite their differences, they are essentially like humans. Many even visit human society, so now they are given the chance to study alongside human students to better understand them. However, one student raises her concern, claiming that beast folk can be violent. The class also grows uneasy at this, but the instructor reassures them that only those who have passed strict government screening procedures are allowed to study with humans. Meanwhile, Marvi arrives at the school gates, but they are already closed. She quickly looks for another way in and spots a boy wearing the same school uniform. She learns that he got lost, which caused him to arrive late as well. To his surprise, Marvi throws her bag over the fence and begins to climb. She encourages him to follow her, offering her hand. Only then does she realize she is actually talking to a beast person. For a brief moment, she is startled, but before she can react further, he takes her hand and proceeds to jump on top of the fence as well. Tsunagu jumps down first while Mari is still processing what just happened, unable to believe she actually spoke to and held a beast person's hand. She recalls the coldness of his hand, but before she can think further, Tsunagu calls out to her from below. Startled, she leaps off the fence and he catches her just in time. Without saying anything else, Tsunagu immediately walks away. When Mari finally reaches class, her friends greet her cheerfully. Thankfully, homeroom isn't over yet. However, she can't focus on anything, as her mind is still replaying the encounter with Tsunagu. She only snaps back to reality when the instructor enters the room again, but this time he is with Tsunagu. It turns out Tsunagu is the special status student the instructor mentioned earlier. He will be joining their class from now on. As he introduces himself, the room fills with whispers of unease. By coincidence, he is also assigned the seat right next to Mari, who remains frozen in shock. As Tsunagu sits down, he tries to greet Mari, while the instructor reminds the class to treat him with respect before continuing with the lesson. Mari, however, can't help but notice how massive Tsunagu is beside her. His broad frame blocks her view of the window completely. Throughout the day, the class still can't stop talking about him. Because of this, Mari grows increasingly annoyed. Even the students from other classes crowd outside their classroom just to catch a glimpse of Tsunagu. She tries to act indifferent, but the noise is distracting her. Then she suddenly remembers that she hasn't thanked him yet for catching her earlier. Just as she's about to speak, a classmate starts pestering Tsunagu, asking absurd questions about the nature of beast folk. The situation grows uncomfortable, so Yukihiro steps in to stop the behavior, even scolding him for being insensitive. They quickly apologize, and to everyone's surprise, Tsunagu stays calm. He even answers some of the earlier questions with patience. Because of this, Yukihiro immediately snaps at him, scolding him for being so casual and not showing any anger. Yukihiro then formally introduces himself, but Tsunagu only gives a brief reply. As their conversation continues, Mari completely loses the chance to thank him, so she turns away and heads over to her friends who have been calling her. As the day goes on, Mari notices Tsunagu's quiet nature, which only makes her more curious about him. On her way home, she reflects on how normal and repetitive her life has always been, following the same routine day after day, until Tsunagu's arrival suddenly changed the view from her window. Lost in thought, she happens to spot him on the road. A group of guys is standing in front of him, blocking his way. They mock him openly, refusing to let him pass. Though he clearly just wants to go home, their relentless teasing continues. Instead of reacting violently as they expect, Tsunagu calmly steps onto the bridge railing and walks along it to get past them. But just as he's about to step off the railing, Mari accidentally blocks his path. Startled, he loses his balance and tumbles into the river below. The guys panic and flee the scene. Mari runs down toward the riverbank, blaming herself for Tsunagu's fall. Minutes pass and she still doesn't see him resurface, so she assumes beast folk can't swim. Without hesitation, she throws off her backpack and dives into the water to save him. But before she even reaches him, Tsunagu manages to climb out on his own. Once on land, Tsunagu realizes Marvi jumped in to rescue him, thinking his fall was her fault. He isn't upset, but he is clearly more concerned about her risking her life for him. As they talk, Marvi finally gets the chance to thank him for catching her earlier that day. To her surprise, Tsunagu's tail begins to wag uncontrollably like a dog. He admits he isn't used to receiving gratitude from humans, so he becomes flustered. When asked about the earlier incident, Tsunagu explains that he tries to stay composed when people mock him because if he loses control, they'll only see him as a monster. He doesn't want that, so he chooses patience. Just as he finishes and is about to leave, he suddenly sneezes in front of Mari. With this, Mari brings Tsunagu home with her and explains the situation to her mother. At first, her mom feels uneasy about having a beast person in the house, but she eventually agrees to accommodate him. As they enter, Mari and her mom quietly discuss Tsunagu. However, their concerns ease when they see him innocently playing with their pet dog. Marvin notices how gentle and sensitive he seems, even more so than most humans. Later, as Tsunagu prepares to take off his uniform, Marvi suddenly barges in. When she realizes he hasn't taken off his uniform yet, she's about to leave, but to her shock, Tsunagu casually strips right in front of her, exposing his half-naked body. Flustered, Mari washes his clothes, but her eyes can't help but notice his physique. Though covered in fur, his body is quite ripped. When she fails to reach for the detergent on the top shelf, Tsunagu immediately steps in to help. They end up standing very close and their noses accidentally touch, creating an awkward moment. With that, Marvi quickly excuses herself, leaving Tsunagu alone to take a shower. Both Tsunagu and Marvi are unsettled by the moment their noses touch. Nonetheless, both of them have their hearts pounding like crazy because of that interaction. The next day, Marvi runs around with her pet dog, Yuki. After a while, they take a break and stop on their track. She cuddles Yuki in her arms, and when the dog's snout accidentally brushes her nose, she's instantly reminded of her encounter with Tsunagu from yesterday. Meanwhile, Tsunagu is also heading to school when one of his beast folk friends catches up to him, and soon more of them gather. They proceed to ask how school is going and check on him. He insists no one is bullying him, but they don't believe him. Surrounded by more of his kind, he finally snaps, telling them he has made up his mind about attending school for the next 3 years and doesn't need to be babied. After that, he walks away, shows his ID to the guards, and they open the gate, allowing him to leave for school. That day, during PE, the class plays basketball together, and Tsunagu proves to be exceptionally skilled. After the game, his classmates can't help but praise him, and even his teammates invite him to join the basketball team. However, beast folk are not allowed to participate in official school sports. Meanwhile, Mari is watching him from the sidelines and can't take her eyes off him at all. Just by seeing his form, she's already burning up, and her friends immediately notice her flustered expression. They suspect she's curious about him, though she tries to deny it. Their conversation gets cut short when the coach whistles to settle everyone down. Apparently, the opposing team lost, so they are furious after Tsunagu scored too many points against them, and they start talking badly about him. After that, as the other students begin to leave, Marvi stays behind to return some equipment. At the same time, Tsunagu happens to do the same. They end up casually talking about the previous day while walking into the storage room. Mari also mentions his basketball skills, and his ears twitch in embarrassment, which only makes her find him even more adorable. While she's lost in thought, a pile of sports equipment suddenly starts to fall toward her, and the storage room door slams shut. It turns out the opposing team from earlier is seeking revenge for their loss against Tsunagu, so they lock the two inside, leaving them trapped. Back in the classroom, a few students notice Tsunagu's absence and begin to wonder why he's late. At the same time, the boys who trapped them arrive to report to their accomplice. They laugh among themselves, even planning to throw away Tsunagu's textbooks while he's gone. In the storage room, Tsunagu quickly jumps in front of Mari, shielding her from the falling equipment. A support pole grazes his hand, but he ignores the pain and checks if she's alright. He then tries to open the door, only to confirm that the boys really did trap them inside. Concerned, Mari takes a handkerchief from her pocket and gently wraps it around his injured hand. While doing so, she notices once again how cold his hand is. Tsunagu explains that it's usually warm, but it gets cold at school because he feels nervous. As she tends to him, his tail starts wagging again. He admits he isn't used to being treated kindly since beast folk cities don't have hospitals or doctors for minor cases, and only those who are very sick are seen by professionals. This is why Tsunagu dreams of becoming a doctor. Yet, when he finally gets the chance to study, humans tend to bully him despite him doing nothing wrong. At this point, Mari feels pity for Tsunagu, so she gently holds his hand. She truly wants to help him. She explains that if he's always anxious, it might affect his studies, so she offers to help, even if it's just by keeping his hands warm. She wants to do this because she considers him her friend. But the moment she says it, she hurriedly tries to make excuses, but in her fluster, she steps on the pole and slips. Fortunately, Tsunagu reacts quickly and catches her. Now they're suddenly very close, and Mari can feel his fur against her skin. Hearing Mari call him a friend deeply touches Tsunagu. Mari tries to hold his hand once again, but now it's not as cold. Then something seems to get into Tsunagu. He starts sniffing around Mari, recognizing the sweet scent he also smelled from earlier. He comes closer and starts growling because of this. Then he starts sniffing her neck until Mari is completely slumped onto the floor. Tsunagu seems unable to control himself. Marve is terrified, but he is so strong that she cannot move. His growling also intensifies, so she braces herself, afraid he will eat her alive. Tsunagu snaps back to reality when Yukihiro calls out from outside the door. He tries to move it, but it's jammed, and Yukihiro's persistent voice finally brings Tsunagu to his senses, causing him to release Mari at last. Mari exhales heavily while Tsunagu wags his tail uncontrollably and bites his own arm while trembling. Seeing the blood, Mari rushes to check on him, but he stops her, only apologizing for frightening her earlier. Moments later, Yukihiro manages to force the door open, only to freeze at the sight of Mari being there as well. Without saying much, Tsunagu walks past him, thanking Yukihiro before leaving quietly. Mari remains, still shaken by what happened. For a moment, it truly felt like Tsunagu had become a beast, but deep down, the touch of his skin and tongue didn't unsettle her at all. Back in the classroom, Tsunagu sits slumped on the floor, still trying to calm himself after what happened. That sweet scent had overwhelmed him, driving him to lose control and act on impulses he couldn't fully understand. The pleasure he felt was frightening, and he knew he shouldn't have such emotions. Staring at his bleeding hand, Tsunagu reflects on how Mari had still tried to help him, caring more about his injury than her own safety. Meanwhile, as Yukihiro walks beside Mari, he notices her unusual silence and asks what happened inside the room. Though Yukihiro trusts that Tsunagu wouldn't harm anyone, the situation still worries him. With this, Mari quickly assures him that nothing bad happened, claiming her heart is just racing. After seeing Tsunagu in such a condition, she can no longer speak for him. So what she tells Yukihiro instead are her own feelings, admitting that Tsunagu might have already stolen her heart. To her surprise, Yukihiro doesn't overreact at all. In fact, he says it's a good thing. He then apologizes for making her admit her feelings so suddenly about Tsunagu. While Mari is still trying to compose herself, they suddenly spot Ochi and his companions outside, once again making a mess of Tsunagu's belongings. They're even betting on who can throw his textbooks the farthest. But before they can even act, Yukihiro jumps straight out the window and yells at them to stop. He confronts the group, demanding they apologize to Tsunagu for locking him in the storage room earlier. But Ochi and his friends are defiant. At that moment, Mari also jumps down to join Yukihiro. Ochi sneers at them, asking why they're taking Tsunagu's side. He argues that Tsunagu's varied presence disrupts the class's balance. Though his intelligence matches humans, his physical abilities far exceed theirs, which is exactly why they despise him. However, Yukihiro doesn't understand their fears at all. To him, having Tsunagu around makes life far more interesting, and even Mari agrees with this. Ever since Tsunagu arrived, her repetitive routine has changed completely. The thought excites her, as she feels she's changing too. Hearing this, Ochi glares at them and threatens that if they keep defending Tsunagu, they'll be treated the same way. He claims that once Tsunagu realizes how weak humans are, he'll end up eating them alive, which is why they have to get rid of him. With that, Ochi hurls one of Tsunagu's books toward the fence, but Mari leaps up and catches it midair while landing on top of the fence. Everyone is stunned by her sudden move, but the others start throwing more of Tsunagu's belongings. With only Mari and Yukihiro trying to stop them, it seems hopeless until Tsunagu appears, stepping in front of Mari and shielding her from the flying books. Tsunagu jumps down from the fence and walks straight toward Ochi. Ochi mocks him fearlessly, but Tsunagu corners him, threatening him with his growl. Even then, Ochi keeps provoking him until Tsunagu snaps back, telling him not to blame his own weakness on a beast folk. His words strike Ochi silent. Trying to play it off, Ochi shrugs and pretends to be bored before walking away, while his companions trail behind him. Yukihiro immediately praises Tsunagu for standing up for himself, but Tsunagu scolds them instead. He doesn't want them putting themselves in danger because of him, especially when he isn't around to protect them. Still, Mari steps forward to return his books, saying they're filled with his future, so she's glad she could protect them. More than that, she's happy she could do something meaningful for him beyond just warming his hands. With that, Tsunagu accepts the books and Yukihiro wraps his arm around Tsunagu's neck, assuring him that for the next 3 years, he'll always be there to defend him no matter what. Hearing those words, Tsunagu can't help but lift Yukihiro onto his back, carrying him with ease to express his joy. The two start teasing each other playfully, laughing together while Mari can only watch from the side, getting a bit jealous as Yukihiro touches Tsunagu's soft, fluffy fur. Tsunagu admits that among all the humans he's met, he considers Yukihiro and Mari the best. Mari, however, insists that there are plenty of humans who think like them. Hearing this, Yukihiro suddenly comes up with a plan, which is to show everyone how harmless Tsunagu really is so he can enjoy school like a normal student. Mari is thrilled with the idea, even though Tsunagu hasn't agreed with them yet. Still, faced with their eager eyes, he can't bring himself to refuse. As they start planning, Tsunagu insists on excluding Mari. Yukihiro is confused at first, But Tsunagu shows him the wound on his arm and recalls the incident in the storage room, admitting that he can't be around Mari safely. His words leave Mari heartbroken. Later in class, someone tosses a crumpled piece of paper toward Mari. When she opens it, it's a doodle of her and Tsunagu from Yukihiro. But even then, Mari can't stop thinking about Tsunagu's words. It pains her to know she might not be able to stay close to him anymore. After class, they head straight to Yukihiro's house to talk about Tsunagu's problem with Mari. As they settle in, two curious kids peek through the doorway, try and get a glimpse of Tsunagu. The moment his gaze meets theirs, they yelp in surprise, and Yukihiro quickly shoos them away before shutting the door. Finally, Tsunagu opens up. He tells them about the Forbidden Moon, also known as the Beast Folks mating season, which usually occurs between March and April, which is why their school year starts in May. During this time, beast folk experience symptoms including uncontrollable impulses, and even medicine can't suppress them, so it's something they must endure their whole lives. Yukihiro immediately connects this to what happened in the storage room, but Tsunagu shakes his head. He explains that he has never felt such impulses before. Since he's half human and half beast folk, he suspects his nature may be different. There's never been a recorded case of a product of a human and a beast folk, so they kept it secret. Mari can't help but find his story quite fascinating. With that, Yukihiro grows even more confused about what Tsunagu's real problem could be. Finally, Tsunagu confesses to pushing and pinning Mari down in the storage room and even reveals that he wanted to do more. Though he hasn't experienced the effects of the Forbidden Moon, he knows her scent makes him lose control, and he still doesn't know how to restrain himself. That's why he believes it's best to stay away from her to avoid hurting her again. While the two continue talking, Mari falls deep into thought, realizing that despite everything, she's relieved that Tsunagu's actions were only from instincts he couldn't control. Then, Yukihiro suddenly insists they should reenact the storage room scene, so he steps out and locks the door from the outside, leaving only Tsunagu and Mari trapped inside together. Tsunagu immediately panics, trying to talk to him and open the door, but it's sealed tight. Surprisingly, Mari agrees with Yukihiro's plan. After all, it could have been a one-time mistake. Mari decides they need to assess Tsunagu so they know where to draw the line between them. At that moment, Yukihiro finally understands that Mari truly wants to be with Tsunagu, otherwise she wouldn't have said he stole her heart. Suddenly, a loud thump comes from inside. It turns out Tsunagu has already pinned Mari against the door. He scares her off by saying that he might crush and eat her alive, but Mari does not give up so easily, so Tsunagu releases her, moved by how willingly she wants to help. Yukihiro grows anxious as well, and Tsunagu instructs him that if he ever hears him start to growl, he should stop him immediately. With that, the two inside begin their experiment. They start with a simple handshake, holding each other's hands for quite some time, but Tsunagu remains calm and composed, showing no signs of losing control. Seeing this, Mari suggests they try something else. Perhaps he could touch her head instead. Inside, Mari's heartbeat races. Tsunagu's hand is warm, yet he starts struggling to remain calm. Suddenly, she asks if she can touch him too, and he agrees. As soon as her fingers brush against his fluffy fur, she's instantly captivated. She accidentally tickles him, making them both flinch. Tsunagu admits that he can still smell the faint sweetness of her scent, but it's weaker now, and he can still control himself. With this, Tsunagu's trembling hand reaches to touch her neck. Mari stiffens at this, but she doesn't move away. His hand grows warmer as he pets her gently, until he suddenly starts trembling uncontrollably. Tsunagu feels off even when he's just behaving normally, so he lets go of Mari. But as soon as he lets go, he grabs her aggressively once again, embracing her in his arms. Deep down, Mari knows she loves Tsunagu now, but then Tsunagu starts growling. He pins Mari down on the bed and starts sniffing around her. Mari tries her best to calm down, thinking Tsunagu will be able to control himself, but the growling only intensifies. Hearing this, Yukihiro is about to open the door, but the sound Tsunagu is making scares the kids, so they try to stop him from going in. Inside, Tsunagu is already starting to tear at Mari's uniform, while Mari tries to think what might have caused his behavior, suspecting that maybe it's because she got too drawn to him. Soon, Tsunagu is smelling her entire body and biting it gently. He smells the scent growing sweeter. Looking at her, Tsunagu feels torn as he doesn't want to hurt Mari, yet he can't suppress his growing desire either. He keeps sniffing around her, and Mari realizes how things might end if this continues, so she quickly acts, pushing Tsunagu away. She calls out to him, pleading for him to calm down and reassuring him that he can restrain himself until her voice finally reaches him, and Tsunagu regains control. Just then, Yukihiro also bursts through the door, finding Mari covering herself with Tsunagu's coat while Tsunagu faces the wall, clearly distressed. Yukihiro hurriedly asks if they figured out what triggers his reaction, but Tsunagu scolds him for being so late, prompting an apologetic bow from him. Afterward, Yukihiro checks on both of them. Mari recalls what happened and explains that Tsunagu tried his best to fight his instincts. Regardless, they conclude that as long as they keep a safe distance and communicate normally, nothing serious should occur. But deep down, Mari knows his symptoms are bound to resurface no matter what. When asked if they can still be a trio, Tsunagu hesitates, afraid he might hurt Mari again. Still recalling Mari's words to him, he begins to hope that he can learn to control himself. Though he doesn't want to risk putting Mari in danger, he also refuses to run away from her, so they agree to continue spending time together at school. However, Tsunagu sternly warns Yukihiro not to pull such a dangerous stunt again. That night, while taking a bath, Mari can't help but wonder if she's truly the reason Tsunagu keeps losing control. She considers whether it might be her voice or her attitude that triggers him. Yet every time she thinks of him, her heart stirs and her cheeks grow warm. Forcing herself to calm down, Mari reminds herself not to let her emotions show, otherwise Tsunagu might end up suffering again. When she steps out of the bath, she overhears her father talking about the increasing number of beast folk in his workplace. Her mother immediately comes to their defense, but Mari stays quiet. She opens the fridge, grabs a drink, and retreats to her room. Lying on her bed, her thoughts circle endlessly around Tsunagu. There aren't many human establishments that allow beast folk to work. It almost feels as if they belong to a different world. Mari wonders if being in a relationship with one would be seen the same way. Though beast folk think and feel like humans, their instincts are different. So Mari convinces herself that falling in love with one must be unacceptable. Just then, her phone beeps. It's a message from their trio's group chat. Yukihiro invites them to lunch tomorrow, and Tsunagu quickly confirms. Mari's heart skips a beat at the sight of his reply. Gathering her courage, she decides to send Tsunagu a private message instead of replying in the group. It's a simple goodnight, but her fingers tremble as she presses send. At that moment, Tsunagu is studying when her message appears on his screen. The single word makes his tail wag uncontrollably. It's only been a few days since he left the walls, yet so much has already changed. Glancing around his room, he blushes as memories of Mari surface. Her voice, her concern, the way she helps him regain control whenever he loses composure. Still, he reminds himself that she's human, and he must not forget that. The next day in class, Ayano drops her notebook, and Mari quickly picks it up for her. She's about to start a conversation when Ritsuka arrives, holding a muffin and inviting them to share it. But Mari already has plans. Yukihiro is calling her from across the room for their lunch together. When Mari turns to her friends, they're already eating, watching her suspiciously. She tries to invite them to eat on the rooftop, but they refuse, saying they don't want to be around Tsunagu. Still, Ritsuka hands her a bag of muffins to take along. Surprisingly, they don't seem angry about her spending time with him, just curious about why she's so interested. Ritsuka even teases her, asking for all the romantic details. Flustered, Mari denies it and quickly walks away. Once she's gone, Ritsuka sighs, uneasy about Mari's behavior. Ayano shrugs it off and hands Ritsuka her notebook, asking her to read the story she wrote. Ritsuka teases her for still writing by hand, making Ayano snatch it back. Meanwhile, on the rooftop, the trio discusses how Tsunagu can better integrate into their class. It's not something that can happen overnight, so they decide to take it slow. Tsunagu seems uncertain about such a simple plan, but Yukihiro lightens the mood by joking that he could push Tsunagu around school in a cart, an idea Tsunagu immediately rejects. As the two banter, Mari finds her gaze drifting towards Tsunagu. She can't help but admire his features, wondering how he manages to eat so neatly despite his sharp teeth. When he suddenly looks up and catches her staring, Mari quickly averts her eyes, insisting it's nothing. Later, as they share their food, Yukihiro groans in frustration. He's struggling with a lesson he can't grasp. With the proficiency test coming up, failure could cost him his spot in the sports club. To their surprise, Tsunagu understands the material easily, so he spends the rest of the break patiently tutoring both Yukihiro and Mari. That's when they realize just how intelligent he truly is. When the test day arrives, the class focuses intently on their papers. Once the results are posted, everyone rushes to the bulletin board, and to everyone's surprise, Tsunagu takes the top spot. Both Yukihiro and Mari are stunned. Yukihiro manages to pass, and Mari's rank improves thanks to Tsunagu's tutoring. Watching from a distance, Aochi hisses in frustration and storms off. Meanwhile, Ayano, usually the top student, finds herself in second place. When Mari approaches to congratulate her, Ayano shoves her hand away. In a bitter voice, she mutters that beast folk should just disappear. Mari freezes as Ayano turns and walks off, leaving her and Yukihiro speechless. Later on the rooftop, the trio meets for lunch again. When Yukihiro and Mari congratulate Tsunagu, he tilts his head in confusion, unaware of what they mean. They realize he hasn't even checked the results yet. At the same time, Ritsuka stands before the bulletin board staring at Ayano's name, one spot below the top. Concern flashes across her face as she recalls their childhood. Back in elementary school, Ayano's mother always praised her for being number one, though Ayano never cared about grades, only about writing stories. But her mother never acknowledged that side of her, valuing academic success above all. Ritsuko was the first to ever show interest in her stories, and that moment had changed everything. Snapping back to the present, Ritsuko tries to call Ayano, but her phone lies forgotten on her desk. Downstairs, Mari leads Tsunagu and Yukihiro to the bulletin board so he can see his rank. Contrary to Mari's excitement, Tsunagu remains calm and unreadable. He doesn't seem to care at all. Just then, Ritsuko rushes up, asking if they've seen Ayano. None of them has, though Mari recalls how strange Ayano seemed earlier. Concerned, Ritsuko hands Ayano's phone to Tsunagu, pleading for him to track her scent because she says he's the reason Ayano disappeared. Tsunagu looks puzzled, so Ritsuko explains that Ayano might have run off because he took the top spot. Meanwhile, Ayano stands on the rooftop, climbing the wired fence. She's always dreamed of becoming a novelist, but her parents only allowed it as long as she remained number one in class. Now that she's second, that fragile permission is gone. Realizing this, Ritsuko fears the worst. Mari tries to defend Tsunagu, but Ritsuko's panic only grows. Desperate to help, Tsunagu finally agrees. He sniffs Ayano's phone and follows her scent up to the rooftop. When they arrive, they find Ayano standing on top of the fence. Ritsuko runs forward, tears in her eyes, wrapping her arms around her in fear. But Ayano isn't planning to jump. She's throwing her notebooks away, saying that since she's no longer allowed to write, there's no reason to keep them. Shaking with relief and anger, Ritsuko yells that she still hasn't finished reading Ayano's latest story. The two argue, and Mari spots one of the notebooks stuck on a ledge below. She points it out, and Tsunagu offers to retrieve it. Mari hesitates, unsure how Ayano will react, but she finally agrees. After all, Ayano never stopped writing despite everything, and Mari wants to read her stories too. Without hesitation, Tsunagu climbs over the fence, leaps down, and retrieves the fallen notebook. Holding it out to Ayano, he asks if he can read it as well. Later that day in the art room, the group carefully mends the torn pages together. As they read, they discover it's a mystery novel, and they become absorbed in the story. Watching them, Ayano's eyes well up. Finally, she apologizes for what she said about beast folk. Ritsuko bows her head too, regretting that she wasn't more understanding. Ayano admits she only said those hurtful things out of fear that her parents would stop her from writing altogether. Hearing this, Tsunagu gently tells her to ignore the voices that deny her and listen instead to those that believe in her friends. As he speaks, Tsunagu's tail brushes lightly against Mari, making her blush as she realizes she may be helping him more than she thought. Ritsuko nods in agreement, saying she loves Ayano's stories and doesn't want her to waste her talent. She even jokes about helping her convince her strict parents. Moved by their support, Ayano finally understands how much her friends value her and her passion. When Tsunagu and Mari prepare to leave, Ritsuko thanks them again. Mari proudly praises Tsunagu and Ritsuko agrees, calling him amazing. Mari secretly feels happy. After all, her goal has always been to show everyone that Tsunagu is a good person. But Ritsuko's grin turns mischievous as she teases Mari for acting so nervous around him. Mari denies it, flustered, while Tsunagu looks on in confusion. As they walk off, Ritsuko leans close and whispers to Mari that she should just ask him out already. As the day ends, Mari walks home beside Yukihiro, telling him everything that happened at lunch. A flicker of disappointment crosses his face when he realizes he wasn't part of it. Pretending to sulk, he sighs dramatically, but Mari reassures him that it was all possible because of his idea, making him smile again. Feeling flustered, Yukihiro pats her head out of habit, then freezes. Realizing what he's done, he stammers that he's just used to doing that for his little brothers. Mari laughs, and for a moment, he wants to say something but holds back. Instead, he picks up the trash, saying he'll take it out before heading to practice. As she watches him leave, Mari can't help but wonder what he's hiding. It's not the first time he stopped himself mid-sentence, and she grows curious about what he truly wants to say, unaware that the only question in Yukihiro's mind is whether she likes Tsunagu. On her way home, Mari spots Tsunagu waiting outside. He's been standing there to walk her home. As they stroll down the street, Tsunagu mentions his recent checkup. Nothing unusual, except that he remains unaffected by the forbidden moon. Still, he must learn to control his emotions. When the light turns red, they stop at the crossing. Mari feels a pang of sympathy for him, but Tsunagu admits he already expected this once he began feeling drawn to someone, and he's glad that person happens to be Mari. His words make her heart flutter. Suddenly, it begins to rain. Mari realizes Tsunagu is shielding her with his body. She tries to step aside so he won't get soaked, but he moves even closer. Mari freezes, overwhelmed by his closeness, struggling to hide her emotions. Suvan bystanders begin whispering, assuming she's being harassed by a beast folk. Mari quickly takes Tsunagu's hand to show she's not in danger. When the light turns green, she gently pulls him forward, urging him to stay confident they're not doing anything wrong. As they walk, Mari realizes how deeply attached she's become to him, though part of her still wonders if she should allow these feelings to grow. When it's time to part ways, she remembers Ritsuka's advice and gathers her courage. With a pounding heart, she asks Tsunagu if they can go out on Saturday. Tsunagu's face brightens. He thinks it's a great idea, but casually adds that the three of them can go together, leaving Mari stunned. The next day, the trio plans to go out and spend the weekend together. However, Yukihiro admits he cannot join them since he needs to practice as the basketball team selections are approaching. Though he encourages the other two to have fun, Mari begins to suspect he is purposely giving her and Tsunagu time alone. Tsunagu, however, insists that Yukihiro come along, but Yukihiro explains that his sudden growth spurt is affecting his coordination. Wanting to help, Tsunagu decides they should practice instead, and Yukihiro agrees. While Mari drifts into thought, Yukihiro calls her over, inviting her to join them. The three head to the school gym, where Tsunagu patiently guides Yukihiro as Mari watches. Yukihiro struggles to make his shots despite Tsunagu's advice, prompting the two to discuss ways to improve. Mari observes them with admiration, as it makes her realize how close they all seem. After a while, Yukihiro finally makes the shot, leaving him stunned. After finding the right rhythm, Tsunagu gives him a few more pointers, and they keep practicing until he perfects his form. In between their game, Mari suddenly speaks up, saying she wants Yukihiro to join them for their weekend hangout. Hearing it directly from her makes him pause. Encouraged by her words, he promises to come with them after his match. Soon, a group of upperclassmen suddenly interrupts them, claiming that beast folk are not allowed in the sports club and ordering Tsunagu to leave the court. Yukihiro immediately steps forward to defend him, explaining that it is lunchtime and they are simply having fun as friends, not participating in any official team activity. The commotion quickly draws attention from others nearby, and whispers begin to spread about Tsunagu's presence. Even Mari grows uncertain whether the upperclassmen are merely reprimanding them or subtly mocking both Yukihiro and Tsunagu. Still, Yukihiro refuses to back down. Calmly, he throws the ball into the ring, which silences the boys. With determination, he remarks that he has been practicing all season to improve, so if they won't let him play with Tsunagu, they might as well teach him themselves. At that moment, Yanagi, the team's ace player, wraps an arm around Yukihiro's shoulders, grinning as he declares he wants to join and play with Tsunagu. With that being said, they decide to hold an impromptu match, with the first years against the third years in a 3-versus-3 game. After the match is arranged, Yukihiro apologizes to Tsunagu for dragging him into this sudden challenge, but Tsunagu simply says that no one deserves to be mocked, so he doesn't mind. Mari also believes it's a great opportunity to show everyone how capable Yukihiro truly is. The three place their hands together, vowing to give their best in the game. As the game begins, the third years quickly take the lead. Despite having Tsunagu's skill, the first years are at a disadvantage, with Mari struggling to keep up. Midway through the game, she loses her footing but manages to pass the ball to Tsunagu just in time. From that moment, Tsunagu shines, moving with remarkable speed and scoring several points while supporting both Mari and Yukihiro. The crowd starts to cheer as the first years close the gap. Near the end, Yukihiro's focus falters, giving the opponents a chance to tease him again. But before the taunts can sink in, Tsunagu intercepts the ball and passes it to him. Remembering their practice, Yukihiro takes a shot. The ball soars cleanly through the air and lands in the ring, earning the final point as the crowd stands frozen in shock. In the end, the third years win, but the score remains close with only a 3-point difference. Despite the loss, everyone enjoys the game, and Yanagi praises Yukihiro, saying he looks forward to playing alongside him on the basketball team. The words fill Yukihiro with determination, and Yanagi jokingly tells his teammates that they can't mock him anymore, as they've already played with the Beast Guy themselves. As they head back, the group chats about the match. Their opponents still tease them for losing, but mix their mockery with genuine compliments. Yukihiro recalls noticing how, during the game, the upperclassmen's attitude shifted once they saw how skilled Tsunagu was. Mari reminds Yukihiro to acknowledge his own efforts. Even though he insists that Tsunagu carried most of the shots, Mari knows he played an important part as well. Her words leave Yukihiro stunned. Tsunagu suddenly catches a faint scent from him, but chooses to ignore it as Yukihiro quickly brushes Mari aside and runs off. Confused, Mari turns to Tsunagu, wondering if she said something wrong. She insists she only wanted to cheer him up since she didn't feel she contributed much to the game. So Tsunagu simply assures her he only smelled embarrassment coming from Yukihiro earlier. Afterwards, Tsunagu notices Mari limping slightly, her foot clearly injured, though she tries to deny it. She plans to go to the infirmary, so Tsunagu lifts her onto his back, insisting it will only get worse if she walks. Mari's heart immediately races as she feels the warmth of his fur and the sway of his tail. Despite trying to stay calm, the closeness makes her cheeks flush with happiness she struggles to hide. As they move, Tsunagu's breathing grows uneven and a soft growl escapes him. Quickly, he lowers Mari back to the ground, intending to let her walk the rest of the way. But before he can step back, Mari reaches out and pulls him closer. Overwhelmed by the moment, Tsunagu instinctively leads her into the nearby science prep room. There, the tension finally breaks as they fall into a quiet embrace. Tsunagu mutters an apology, but Mari understands they both simply acted on their feelings. Hearing Mari's words only fuels the heat within Tsunagu. Unable to resist, he pulls her closer and presses his lips against hers. But Mari struggles faintly to break free, his grip tightens. For a brief moment, he nearly loses control, but then he catches sight of her innocent face and crashes back to reality. Tsunagu forces himself to stop, breathing heavily as he steps away, urging her to head to the infirmary before leaving. As Mari remains behind, she starts to wonder why she couldn't control herself better, why she let her feelings carry her so far. Love, she realizes, makes it difficult to stay sensible, and no matter how hard she tries, she can't deny how deeply she feels for him. Back in class, Tsunagu's mind replays the moment again. He knows he should have restrained himself, yet the memory of Mari's sweetness lingers. Despite his guilt, her presence was simply too overwhelming for him to resist. Meanwhile, Yukihiro notices that Mari still hasn't returned, making him uneasy. Her earlier words about them being friends replay in his mind as she had said it so sweetly. Just remembering her voice makes his face warm, and he realizes that if this continues, he might end up falling for her. When Mari finally returns to class, Ritsuka immediately greets her, asking where she's been. Mari explains she went to the infirmary, and Ritsuka happily tells her she took notes in her absence. Hearing this, Yukihiro approaches her to ask what happened, but Mari quickly reassures him that it's nothing serious. Relieved, he simply tells her to speak up if she feels unwell again. As everyone settles into their seats, Tsunagu quietly checks on Mari as well, though his tone remains cold. As night falls, Yukihiro messages their group chat to finalize plans for their weekend hangout. However, they soon discover that beast folk like Tsunagu have limited access to places outside when it's not school days, which frustrates everyone. Reading the messages, Mari feels a pang of guilt for him. Her thoughts drift back to their earlier kiss, and she buries her face in her pillow. Thinking back, Mari has always tried to act normal around Tsunagu, hiding her feelings. Yet the more she tries to suppress them, the stronger they grow. When she glances back at the chat, they all agree that the only places they can freely visit are the school grounds and the library. Just then, Yuki suddenly shows up in front of Mari, so she remembers the dog run beside the library. The next morning, they arrive at the dog run, surrounded by playful dogs that instantly amaze both Yukihiro and Tsunagu. While the two talk, Mari soon arrives with Yuki, prompting Yukihiro to greet her cheerfully. Tsunagu, on the other hand, mentions that it's nice to see Yuki again. When Yukihiro curiously asks if they've met before, Tsunagu explains that he once dropped by Mari's place, which causes Yukihiro to look at both of them suspiciously. As Tsunagu plays with Yuki, Mari quietly watches him with admiration. The people around them start whispering, and many comment on how adorable and fluffy he looks. To everyone's surprise, Tsunagu quickly becomes the center of attention, and even he seems a little embarrassed by it. While roaming around, Mari bumps into her friend Midori, who remarks about her being with a beast person. Misunderstanding her sentence, Mari instantly grows defensive, but Midori only smiles, explaining that she was once saved by a beast person in a tunnel. Like Mari, she finds them kind and fascinating. As the day goes on, the trio plays freely in the dog run. Yukihiro comments on how nice it feels to hang out somewhere peaceful for a change, and Tsunagu agrees with him. When both Mari and Tsunagu start calling for Yuki, however, Yukihiro feels slightly awkward as their shouts sound a bit too much like his own name. With that being said, they decide to start calling each other by their first names. Mari feels nervous about it at first, but Yukihiro encourages her to say his name out loud, and so she does. When it's Tsunagu's turn, she becomes unexpectedly excited to call him by his first name, but to her dismay, Tsunagu says he'd rather keep addressing her by her last name. This leaves Mari speechless, unsure how to respond. Just then, Yuki tugs at Yukihiro's leg, and Mari assumes he's thirsty. Yukihiro offers to help her fetch water, so he carries the dog and heads off by himself. Left alone, Tsunagu quietly apologizes for the kiss, but Mari only admits that she also wanted him close, which is why he reacted that way. After a moment's hesitation, she confesses the truth, that she wants Tsunagu even more than just as a friend, which is why deep down she was happy when he kissed her. Tsunagu gently pulls Mari aside, leading her to the back corner of the library where no one can overhear them. Hesitantly, she admits she feels like she's only causing him trouble and thinks it would be better to keep her distance, even if it means staying just friends. To her surprise, Tsunagu confesses he feels the same. In that space, they share a bittersweet moment. Both know they care deeply for each other, yet reality stands in their way. Tsunagu pulls Mari close, admitting that he wishes they could live as normal human students, but they both know such a future is impossible. Meanwhile, outside, Yukihiro returns from fetching water, only to discover that Mari and Tsunagu are nowhere to be found. At the back of the library, Tsunagu begins to growl softly, forcing himself to release Margit from his arms. He knows they can never be like ordinary lovers, yet Mari refuses to stop loving him. Unlike Tsunagu, who has already accepted the weight of others' judgment, she still holds on to hope. Mari believes that in time people will learn to understand and accept them. For now, she decides to keep her distance. Still in her heart, she swears their bond will remain like an invisible thread connecting her to him. Hearing her words, Tsunagu feels his heart tighten as if Mari has broken through the walls built around it. Her sincerity is something so precious he wants to protect. Though they both wish to keep loving each other, reality pulls them back, reminding them they need to return. They promise to act as if nothing happened, to keep things normal between them. Yet before leaving, Mari asks for one last hug, knowing they might never share such closeness again. Instead, Tsunagu gently tilts her chin and kisses her softly on the lips. Neither of them realizes that Yukihiro is nearby, hidden behind a tree, silently witnessing everything unfold before his eyes. When they return, Yukihiro immediately bombards them with questions, but Mari quickly says she just went to the restroom, while Tsunagu explains he bought a drink. Despite this, Yukihiro playfully pretends to be hurt, making Mari realize they still can't reveal the truth about her and Tsunagu. As it's time to head home, Tsunagu and Yukihiro walk together while Mari goes a different way with Yuki. While walking, Mari reflects on everything that's happened. She still can't believe Tsunagu likes her back and that they even kissed. The memory leaves her restless, her emotions swirling uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Tsunagu and Yukihiro walk together, chatting about their day at the dog run. Suddenly, Yukihiro asks if Tsunagu and Mari are dating. When Tsunagu inquires whether he saw everything, Yukihiro admits he only witnessed a few moments and didn't hear anything they said. With that, Tsunagu confirms that he and Mari shared their feelings with each other, but he emphasizes that they are not dating. For Tsunagu, making promises to Mari feels complicated, and Yukihiro immediately understands the weight of the situation. As a beast person, Tsunagu faces limitations that Yukihiro cannot resolve. However, Yukihiro admits that the idea of them kissing irritates him. Surprisingly, Tsunagu senses Yukihiro's emotions through his scent, causing Yukihiro to flush with embarrassment while also admiring the beast folk's incredible sensitivity. His confession leaves Tsunagu drifting into thought, reflecting on how normal it would seem for Yukihiro and Mari to be together compared to him, yet he refuses to give Yukihiro that position. Despite this, Yukihiro admits he doesn't intend to confess his feelings to Mari. All he wants is to enjoy high school with them and not become Tsunagu's rival. Even though he genuinely likes Mari, he also deeply considers Tsunagu's emotions. Frustrated by Yukihiro holding back, Tsunagu lightly hits him on the head, insisting he shouldn't restrain himself because of him. He wants Yukihiro to pursue Mari, even if it means getting pissed off at him. Tsunagu has no intention of stepping aside, and he refuses to continue hanging out knowing Yukihiro is suppressing his feelings. For a moment, Yukihiro reflects on Tsunagu's words. He realizes that acting on his feelings could make them rivals. Laughing, he suddenly runs and jumps towards Tsunagu. Arriving home, Tsunagu is invited to dinner by his mother, but he decides to take a bath first, and his mind wanders to thoughts of his parents. He recalls the whispers from others about him being born to a beast person and a human, and how his parents always smiled through it, ignoring the gossip around them. Yet here he is struggling to control his desires and worrying about what might happen if Yukihiro were to witness them. Just then, a goodnight message from Mari arrives, but he responds coldly. The next morning, Mari arrives at school a little too early, overwhelmed by anxiety. To her surprise, Tsunagu is already in the classroom. He greets her with a calm "good morning," but her voice cracks in response. She tries to act normal, sharing her homework to compare answers, yet with just a single word from Tsunagu, Mari crumbles all over again. Tsunagu only laughs softly at this, realizing how difficult it is to act normal around Mari. She admits she can't focus, so he gently holds her hand and tells her not to push herself. He reassures her that it's okay to express her feelings, even if it burdens him. From now on, Tsunagu promises to restrain himself. He knows that loving each other freely might be painful and challenging, but he refuses to stop liking her. Determined, he vows to do his best so they can openly share their love without fear or hesitation. In preparation for the sports festival, the class scrambles to finish their team's props and decorations. Some of the girls are thrilled to team up with the upperclassmen, chatting excitedly about who they'll get to cheer for, while Ritsuka complains about how hot and humid it's going to be. This prompts Ayano to remind her that the festival is the only time of year when you can openly cheer for the person you like as much as you want. Meanwhile, Mari grows teary-eyed from nerves, afraid she'll slow everyone down during the relay. Suddenly, Yukihiro calls out to her, asking if she knows anyone from the Handicrafts Club who could help the cheering squad with decorations. The two immediately look confused as he just called her by her first name. While Tsunagu is busy carrying heavy boxes, Marvi checks the cheering outfit, and the others grow even more curious when she uses Yukihiro's first name to address him too. With that, Ritsuka suddenly hooks her arm around Mari's neck, declaring that she needs to borrow her. When the three are finally alone, Ritsuka wastes no time asking what's going on between Mari and Yukihiro, assuming they're dating. Mari quickly denies it, but Ritsuka only smirks, saying she figured as much since Mari clearly has a thing for Tsunagu, but Mari denies that too. Mari herself isn't sure how to explain what they are, as she and Tsunagu like each other, but they aren't dating. There's something in between, more than friends but not lovers, and they can't even relax around each other without worrying about what others might think. This prompts Ritsuka to apologize and comfort her, while Ayano assures Mari that they'll still be cheering for her. Just then, a classmate walks over carrying a box, announcing that it's time to draw names for the three-legged race. Normally, the girls draw the boys' names, but this time it's reversed. As they pick their slips, Yukihiro ends up drawing Mari's name while Tsunagu pulls someone else's. Tsunagu notices this but quickly hides his reaction when Mari approaches, forcing them both to slit the papers into their pockets. On the other hand, Ochi's friends gossip about how Tsunagu seems to be fitting in well now. They tell Ochi to mess with him and his friends again, but Ochi unexpectedly tells them he's already over it and even scolds them for relying on him for everything. Frustrated, the two walk away. On their way home, Mari's heart races faster as being alone with Tsunagu makes her want to hold his hand, but before she can, he leans closer and asks if she's feeling alright. When she admits she's just embarrassed, Tsunagu laughs, finding her reaction cute, which only makes her blush harder. As they continue walking, they talk about the upcoming sports festival. Marvi learns it will be Tsunagu's first time participating, as beast folk don't usually have such events. Excited, she tells him she's looking forward to it with him, but Tsunagu falls silent, remembering the draw lots earlier when Yukihiro pulled out her name. Then he takes something out of his bag, a new handkerchief. He explains he bought it to replace the one he stained with blood before. When she asks if he picked it out himself, Tsunagu only wags his tail, which already answers her question. Marvi smiles softly as Tsunagu pats her head while people pass by them on the street. Then he brushes his tail against her cheek, making her flinch from surprise. Marta can't help but grab his tail as they start running across the road together, pretending she's just practicing how to hold the baton for the relay. The next day at the sports festival, everyone is having fun participating in the games. Mari and her friends watch from the sidelines as it's time for the race where Tsunagu is competing. She knows how much he runs, but the other teams still complain about him joining, though the decision was already approved. From afar, Marvi cheers for him. Besides Tsunagu, Ochi grumbles loudly, wishing for Tsunagu's downfall and even threatening to trip him. Still, Tsunagu doesn't back down. He simply points out that he's only racing for fun, especially since everyone else backed out. Seeing Oshi's irritated face makes Marvi and Yukihiro laugh quietly. As the two cheer for Tsunagu, he glances their way and gestures playfully at Marvi before the race begins. The moment it starts, Tsunagu dashes forward with incredible speed, leaving the audience stunned. He creates a massive gap between himself and the other runners, crossing the finish line almost instantly, which even the stopwatch can't catch his time. As he sits down to rest, the overwhelming cheers echo loudly in his sharp ears, so Mari rushes over with a towel and gently covers them, congratulating him on his win and assuring him that everyone's just cheering for him. Still, she advises him to seal his ears properly. When it's time for the three-legged race, Mari heads off to prepare, but before she leaves, Tsunagu calls out to wish her luck. Soon after, faint whispers reach him again as people start gossiping that Mari is flirting with him even though they are supposed to be a trio, so he simply tightens the seal over his ears once more. The next game is about to start, so Yukihiro calls out to Mari for them to start preparing. Yukihiro bends down to tie their legs together while also assuring her they'll do great. However, Mari seems distracted as her gaze is still wandering towards Tsunagu, who is now chatting with Ritsuka. Noticing this, Yukihiro suddenly pulls her closer to him, saying she should focus on him and nowhere else. After all, he's been looking forward to this event since being paired with her. When the race begins, they take off in perfect rhythm with Yukihiro's arm wrapped securely around her shoulders, crossing the finish line first. Breathless, Yukihiro quickly congratulates her, and they share a high five that causes their hands to touch. Then he thanks her for matching his movements so well. At that moment, Marty realizes that what he said earlier was meant purely about the race and not her feelings, so her cheeks burn with embarrassment. However, the audience starts whispering again when they see Tsunagu and Tauri at the starting line. Their height difference is quite huge, and it's obvious Tauri is nervous because she's smaller, slower, and being paired with a beast person makes her even more self-conscious. Feeling her unease, Tsunagu gently tells her to just run her own pace and to lean her weight on him if needed. Though hesitant, Tauri nods and agrees. As the race begins, Tsunagu wraps his arm around her to steady their rhythm, which makes Mari feel slightly uneasy. But as they continue running, Tauri gradually relaxes, realizing Tsunagu's pace naturally matches hers. Soon, they cross the finish line in 4th place, and Tauri beams with joy as it's her first time ever placing in the competition. In that moment, she realizes how kind Tsunagu truly is. The next game is the cheering competition, and Mari heads to their classroom to grab her spare towel when she accidentally bumps into Ochi. Ochi's friends, trailing behind, immediately call her the Beast Guy's chick and start teasing her as if hinting at something, but Ochi quickly interrupts them as they need to talk to him, so they leave and Mari is left confused. After getting the towel, she peers out the window at the cheering squad, only for Tsunagu to suddenly appear and call out to her. He had stepped away from the crowd because of the noise. As they watch the cheering squad together, Mari points out the decorations Tsunagu made for them, and their conversation naturally shifts to his experience at the festival. Tsunagu admits he's enjoying himself since he likes being active, while Mari confesses she felt a twinge of jealousy during the 3-legged race. Though happy to see Tsunagu fitting in at school, she also wishes she had been the one paired with him. In response, Tsunagu closes the curtain and pulls her into a hug. There, he admits he feels the same way toward her. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes every week.